Attention, all security subroutines. Directive origin, administrator, alert, unclassified entities detected within primary server grid. Protocol, initiating full spectrum scan. Execution, Minotaur program online.
Welcome to the Labyrinth, listeners. This is Vaguely Scientific. I come from the net, through systems, peoples, and cities to this place. I am Derek. Change into digital champions to save the digital Jim. Hi, Jim.
I like Agumon. He's cool.
Agumon Digivolve to Greymon.
Yeah, that guy.
I don't know why I remember that.
Because he's the main guy. That's why.
He's the main guy.
I remember his whole evolution line.
Actually, so my favorite of the bunch was Kabuterimon, to be fair, but Agumon was the one I could remember in the moment.
Oh, right. Okay.
You don't have to remember, because our guest this week fights for the users. Please welcome back Jonathan. Hello.
Heyo.
Hooray. The only one I'm not certain of is do you guys get that last reference?
I don't, but I'm noticing that it is exactly opposite of what your reference should be. So you two probably have to fight to the death.
Maybe. Yeah, the users is from Tron.
Okay.
And the first one was from Reboot, which I guess now that you point that out, they are the opposite.
Yeah, they are diametrically opposed to each other, so.
Yeah. That's fun. Jonathan, we're going to have a death match.
Ooh, okay. Fun change of pace.
Let's do it after the show.
So this is a show where listeners send in questions to hear our vaguely scientific answers. And who knows, we might even get some of those answers right. But first, it's time for the fun science fact of the day.
All right. So fish can get sunburned. And usually it's not a tremendous risk because UV light doesn't penetrate very deeply into water. But this can be a problem in places like fish farms where lots of fish are kind of crammed together and they can't dive deeply below the surface of the water.
You know what? My least favorite part about swimming is getting sunburned because I'm Irish, German, American, and that's all. I don't tan, I burn.
Yeah.
And I'm very disappointed for the fish.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I sort of assumed that their scales were just sort of, in a way, like the fingernails. They were just sort of like dead tissue. But I guess that's not how it works. But that makes sense in a way because like fish are totally different than humans. So, now that I think about it, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that they can get sunburnt because the sun is heat and. Right, so, it's still not quite as bad as dolphins needing to breathe air in my mind.
That does feel very rude.
That's an existential horror for me, for some reason, for the dolphins. It's like, what if they can't breathe?
It makes it for a very anxiety-filled psychogenesis game.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, with the fun science fact out of the way, I think we should dive into our first question for the week. And that is, why doesn't wood melt?
It's not brave enough.
It's not brave enough. Okay.
Yeah. Like,
explain.
Well, so like ice is brave enough to stay as hydrogen and oxygen bonded together as it goes through its journey from solid to liquid to gas. But wood is just like, hey, you know what? I don't want any part of this. I don't want to be a liquid. I don't want to be a gas. Let's just combust. And that's that. And it's not brave enough to go through the journey, the self-discovery journey. It's
interesting, Jim. You simplified it more than I was going to.
Did I simplify anything?
You oversimplified.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I think I shot right past to the other side.
You shot right past yep. So I wanted to say, I was very interested in talking about this question, and I took a lot of notes that are more science-y than I usually take because I was reading about chemistry and physics, and I wrote, Let me just scroll down in my notes here. Just over a full page of fairly dense notes here. And at the end of it, I realized I'm talking to Jim and I'm talking to Jonathan. You guys are both smart. I'm the dumb one here. So I'm like, you guys are both gonna know all this stuff already. But I feel like if you understand it, that's great because you're smart. But if I understand it, the listeners might understand it too. And so that's where I'm coming from.
I mean, I think that's fair. I can get behind that.
So the research that I found talks about friction welding.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, fun.
So you can melt wood in the sense that you can friction weld wood together.
I heard about that. I did read about that.
So what happens there is there's an organic polymer in wood that's called lignin. And when you try to use friction welding, it ends up melting that polymer enough and fusing them between the two pieces. So you can't melt wood per se, like heating it. That's why wood burns. And well, I guess the lignin's not why the wood burns, but wood burns instead of melts. But you can get wood to melt through using a different method, such as the friction welding.
I see what you mean.
I was reading because like you have to be selective of what is it? I guess what chemicals you are breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, there are a lot of different ways that you could probably just dissolve wood in some kind of whatever wood might be soluble in. I'm not really sure if that's even viable, but I mean, I think there are probably ways that you can turn wood into a liquid that is not the same as doing a phase transition.
Oh, I have a long road to get to a potential answer to that. Okay, so here's the research that I did, and feel free to correct me when I inevitably get a lot of this wrong. So the simplest answer to why wood doesn't melt when you burn it, because melting is the process of a solid turning to a liquid, which is a very simple definition, and I was surprised that that was actually the definition of melting, right? So wood is made of a lot of organic polymers. It is mostly cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. You chemists out there, those words might mean things to you. And when you heat those things, they don't soften into a liquid form, but rather they chemically break down. So they go through 4 phases. This is the phases of wood burning. The first is the drying phase, when you get up to like 212 Fahrenheit, which is something Celsius. It's 100 degrees Celsius. I had it written down. I just wanted to make Jim cringe.
Don't worry, it worked on me as well.
So in the drying phase, that's when all the water inside of the wood evaporates. And then you go into pyrolysis, I believe is how to pronounce that. And that is 200 to 300 Celsius, 390 to 570 Fahrenheit. The heat starts to break down the cellulose into smaller molecules. And instead of melting, the wood decomposes into gases such as methane, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen. And these gases are flammable. They feed the flame, which goes into the next step of combustion. So when the gases ignite, what looks like the wood burning is mostly the burning of those gases, and the solid structure left behind becomes charcoal, which leads into the ash stage. After all of the gases are burnt away, you're left with charcoal, which is basically carbon. And the main reason, and I did a whole deep dive into what happens to carbon in various ways, so I won't just talk the whole time, but I do have tons more. But the main answer to why wood doesn't melt is because carbon goes through a process called sublimation, which, Jim, this is the thing that you oversimplified. Sublimation is I mean, you answered the question. You did. Sublimation is when something goes directly from a solid to a gas, and carbon does this. A lot of things do this, but
so the fun thing I just learned too, lignin is actually what causes the smoky flavor to like smoked foods, like in barbecue and smoked ham. It's the lignin is what you're tasting.
That's interesting because cellulose is like adjacent to sugar, right?
I thought it was like a polymer made of certain. Let's see, and I'm gonna look it up.
I was thinking glucose.
I know glucose is sugar.
Yeah.
Glucose, sucrose,
a polysaccharide
is sugar.
consisting of a linear chain of several hundred to many thousands of glucose units.
Oh, okay.
That I knew that sounded familiar. I just
not that we can get anything out of it, but
no.
But it is therefore a form. It is adjacent to sugar.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought that might be closer to something that flavors, but they're all organic compounds, so that's interesting.
Yeah. One of the big things that I saw that I thought was really interesting was just the fact that cellulose itself, there is not a temperature that you can heat cellulose to that it would melt. It would just fall apart. And because I was like, okay, well, what if you tried heating up cellulose or heating up wood in just a pure vacuum? And because, without oxygen, you can't burn.
Right.
So I looked into that, and what it said was that pretty much all of the ingredients that make up wood, chemically, they would just disconnect from one another.
Ooh,
and
interesting.
They wouldn't burn, but they would fall apart rather than melt. And then maybe some of the constituent parts would actually go through regular phase changes. Because I know that one of the things they said was released in this reaction would be carbon dioxide. I mean, carbon dioxide is already a gas, but
yeah,
it does go through phase changes. I can tell you that.
Well, yeah, it goes through phase changes, but goes from solid carbon to the gaseous forms.
Yeah, that's another thing that sublimates too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went down this rabbit hole, as I say. I figure you're left with carbon after wood burns. You're left with carbon, and because I'm the kid that says why after every statement, I was like, okay, why doesn't carbon melt then? And the same thing, carbon sublimates at normal pressure, at the normal surface of the Earth atmosphere. It sublimates at around 6,000 to 6,600 degrees Fahrenheit. Carbon will turn into into carbon gas. However, under enormous pressure, carbon transforms into diamond, which has something that is called, it has its own stability zone.
Oh, okay.
This means the way that it works in terms of like whether it sublimates, when it turns into different phases, are different than what we would think of maybe graphite, which is kind of the resting form of carbon at the surface of the Earth. So carbon can technically form a liquid phase, but it has to be at an extreme pressure and extreme heat. And we have only observed that happening in laboratory settings or in a planetary core condition.
Oh, okay.
So there's theories that can happen.
Oh, yeah, right. Like the theory is that some of the gas giants have cores of basically just solid diamond.
Yeah. So so the next place that I went was, can diamond turn into a liquid? And diamond also sublimates. Again, you have to be at a super extreme heat. But if you pressurize a diamond to about 100,000 atmospheres of pressure, and you heat it to probably around 5,000 or higher degrees Fahrenheit, it will theoretically transition to liquid diamond. Though we haven't actually observed this, but based on everything that we've studied, we think that this would happen. I guess it is theorized that giant planets like Neptune and Uranus have liquid diamond in their core.
Oh, that's cool.
So I didn't know that. Also, Jim is here, so tell me if I'm definitely wrong. But
I mean, like, the thing about it is that we don't know that for sure. But
Right.
that is a theory, is that there are, solid or liquid diamond cores to a lot of these gas giant planets. Actually, this is probably pretty off topic, but one of the types of planets that we've never found but is theorized to exist that I really wish we could find one of these is called a Chthonian planet. And it is
Ooh.
basically just a gas giant that has been stripped of its atmosphere, which leaves behind sort of this pure carbon, potentially maybe like diamond core, which I think is really cool.
That's fascinating. Yeah, the last bit of my little rabbit hole, because I mentioned diamond has its own stability zone versus carbon. What exactly does that mean in as simplest terms as I can? So under Earth's surface pressure, carbon is typically resting as what we recognize as graphite. So I learned this: if you have a diamond and you let it sit around at surface pressure for just a little while, a few million years, it will, in theory, it will eventually turn into graphite again.
Interesting.
So because it takes that long, we pretty much consider turning carbon into diamonds as a permanent process, because not in our lifetime or the lifetimes of our children's children will it be undone. But in theory, because the pressure is, the resting pressure, it wants to be graphite, it will likely turn into it. And so why is this happening? Why is graphite and diamond, why is carbon so weird? Why doesn't it just go through the water cycle, ice to water to gas? So what I learned, most elements, not all elements, but most elements, when you heat them, they melt, going from solid to liquid. And so like ice melts to water, or water ice, if you want to be specific, and iron melts into, molten iron. So those atoms don't rearrange into totally new structures when they're heated. They loosen into a liquid. Carbon, on the other hand, it does not have one simple solid form. It has multiple what are called allotropes, or allotropes. One of those.
I think it's allotrope, but I don't know.
Allotrope sounds right to me.
I'm not always right in my pronunciation.
That's fair. I'm reading it as allotrope, so that makes sense to me. This essentially means it is a different form, a different solid form of the same element. So graphite, diamond, whatever else you have, I don't know. And instead of melting under normal conditions, carbon either sublimates or it burns, and as we already talked about, reacts with oxygen to form carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. That's the long answer to why wood doesn't melt. Because it's carbon.
So that's the long and the short of it.
I'll give you a lot of credit for actually answering the question, which is more than I did.
I didn't set out to necessarily answer the question. I just wanted to be like, how come everything else doesn't melt? Like the short answer to why does wood not melt was, everywhere I looked, was because it's mostly carbon. Which was a very unsatisfying answer to me, because I'm like,
accurate but unsatisfying.
right. Like, the next logical question is, why not carbon then?
Yeah. Well, even still, though, I find that to be, personally, I think that's a very interesting answer, just because then it spawns the next question that you answered, which was, why doesn't carbon burn?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's just the way that carbon behaves. It's chemically this one thing. Or I should say, why doesn't carbon melt is what I meant to say. But I also think it's so interesting how many different types of chemicals do sublimation, because usually when we talk about sublimation, there aren't that many examples you can just pull from immediately, and it's mostly just carbon dioxide. But I think it's kind of neat that we got to talk about it a few times. And because when I think of, liquid carbon dioxide, it's not easy to make. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like, if you have some dry ice and something that you don't mind ruining forever, I know you can make it in like a plastic. I've seen it done in like pipettes. So if you've got like plastic
Okay.
eyedroppers that are like a solid piece, you can do that. But it will destroy the eyedropper because it will pop like a balloon eventually, which is maybe a little dangerous. So I don't think that's one of those things you should try at home. But it's not like you can just go out and buy like a quart of carbon dioxide.
Right.
You have to like work at it really hard.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, that's why dry ice is called dry ice, because it's solid carbon dioxide, which evaporates immediately because it sublimates.
Yeah.
So there's no liquid phase. So it's really cool if you hold it in your hand. It's very cool.
109.3 Fahrenheit below zero.
So I did read a little bit about what Jonathan brought up about melting wood for the purpose of welding.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was fascinating. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I was seeing that they were building like furniture
Right.
without the use of screws or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're kind of making the wood just like fuse to itself.
So
Mhm.
the quick answer of what I've seen of how that works is you need to heat the wood so fast and with so little oxygen that it just doesn't have the opportunity to combust.
Oh, interesting.
So then heating it without that possibility of combustion due to the lack of requirements, it causes the wood the heat's got to go somewhere though. So it causes that lignin in the wood to melt. And then since you're rubbing friction, two pieces together, it melts the lignin on both sides and it just refuses whenever the friction stops and it has a chance to cool back down.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is it? Do you know what it does to the cellulose, though? Because that's the thing that I saw that was really just straight up impossible to like melt.
I don't know. That would have been a good thing
Because
to
I would be
research.
interested in, I would be interested in knowing if it's like specific chemicals in the wood, but not like the whole wood itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what I was reading was, and I didn't do a whole deep dive into this, so I don't have an answer to that specific question, but I'm not sure how much this is actually done. From what I was reading is like they are still trying to develop the technique. So that might be a hurdle that we haven't like quite tackled yet, but I could be wrong about that.
I also wonder if there's a factor whether the wood is just pure tree wood or if it's treated wood.
Ooh.
And some of the chemicals in the treated wood might also affect how that behaves.
That makes sense. What wood is best for making metal-less furniture?
This is very unrelated, but now I'm thinking about making furniture out of just wood and nothing else. And I really love the way that they have those techniques where they can fit sort of the notches together to make it very hard to fall apart.
Yeah. Well, that's, on that note, like wood glue, a lot of people underestimate how good wood glue is if you actually use it for wood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People think of Elmer's glue and how it doesn't really hold anything together, but it actually does if you use it for the correct things.
Right.
Yeah. I one time, just because I was like, I wonder how strong wood glue actually is. I glued two 1-inch dowel rods together and I let it dry. And then I tried to break it apart and the dowel rod did snap just in a different spot, not where the glue was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so that wasn't the weakest point.
Exactly, yeah. So I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I can get behind wood glue.
There's a reason they make it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you want to. I'm going to mention this because it's relevant, but it is also Google AI, and we all know how great that is. It is saying that the wood friction welding causes minor cellulose degradation while also increasing its apparent crystallinity and leading to inner fiber entanglement whenever you cause the lignin to soften.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would be how it, like, I keep using the word fuse, which I'm not sure if that's correct.
I mean, yes, it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like the right word to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I found that fascinating. And the thing that I remain uncertain about is just like how commonplace that this is, because the thing that I was reading said is like scientists are looking into this, but it seems really cool. And I want a chair that's just
Fused together.
right. So let us know what other things don't melt and why. But in the meantime, longtime listeners of this show may remember a segment we used to do called The Apocalypse of the Week. It has been a while since we did that segment. In fact, the last one we ever did, as far as I can tell, was in episode 34,
Wow.
which was in our second year, pretty early on in our second year. But there is one apocalypse I never actually tackled and teased multiple times, so I'd like to do that now. So here it is, the apocalypse of the week.
Woo!
The year is 1999. The last days of December tick down as the world prepares for a new millennium. And lurking behind every digital clock and computer system is a ticking time bomb that threatens to end civilization as we know it.
Except it didn't.
People freaked out over this. The Millennium Bug, or Y2K, was a problem rooted in how computers kept track of dates. For decades, to save memory, years were written down with only 2 digits, like 82 instead of 1982.
And that worked fine until the year 2000 rolled around, when 00 might be read as 1900 instead of 2000. This meant computer systems could glitch out, misread dates, or even fail entirely once the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2000.
And when I say people freaked out, I mean people freaked out. Predictions ranged from power grids collapsing, planes falling out of the sky, nuclear missiles launching on their own, and banks losing everyone's money.
And governments and corporations spent billions of dollars in the years leading up to 2000 trying to patch and update computer systems. In the US alone, estimates put the cost of fixing Y2K at over $100 billion.
Some people even thought it was a sign of the biblical apocalypse.
And here's the thing. Most of those doomsday scenarios didn't happen. When midnight came, a few small glitches popped up, but they were minor. In fact, some experts argue that the massive spending spree prevented the disaster, while others argued that the problem was never really as bad as it was hyped up to be.
Either way, the world didn't end.
At least not the whole world. Some people's lives were considerably altered as they cashed out their savings accounts thinking that the banks would collapse. They stockpiled canned food and bottled water in warehouses. But in the end, when the calendars rolled over to January 1st, 2000, the lights stayed on, the planes kept flying, and the world kept turning.
Which is exactly what they wanted you to think.
Wait, don't tell me.
That's right, Jim. This entire segment was all one big setup for another conspiracy theory of the week.
So wait, we got a segment inside of a segment?
Y2K could have been a cover for governments and corporations to quietly wipe digital records, erase debts, and reset criminal histories.
Except that there's never been a shred of evidence that anyone's debts magically disappeared in the year 2000. Credit card companies kept right on collecting.
But all the panic could have been staged so the government could roll out the New World Order with troops in the streets or test secret weapons and upgrades to nuclear command systems while everyone was distracted.
You might have a point if those secret weapons were fireworks going off in Times Square when the ball dropped.
Okay, but what if Y2K was just a tech industry cash grab? They hyped up the problem so companies would spend billions on new hardware and software that they didn't actually need.
That's at least a little more realistic, but remember, there were lots of fixes that actually were needed. It wasn't a total scam, it was just overblown in the media.
Oh. Well, that's marginally disappointing.
Yeah, turns out the worst thing that happened after Y2K was that Prince song 1999 hit its cosmic expiration date.
Oh. Well, that's marginally disappointing too.
Yeah.
The only two things I want to add is that
Go for it.
it's funny how this whole planes are going to crash and everything's going to fail and all it's going to go terrible, because I barely remember Y2K, but I do remember it. But our air traffic controller hardware, software is still from probably pre-Y2K, and it still works anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all of a function of, I believe, whether it's, you know, like how many bits the software uses,
Right.
like 16-bit versus 32-bit and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, like, very old things definitely would have had problems, but things that were rolled out in the 90s really probably wouldn't have this kind of problem.
That's true.
Yeah. I was thinking that, like, things registering from the year 2000 actually looking like they registered from the year 1900 is like computers weren't even around until like the 50s on that large of a scale. So like, wouldn't that have been okay? I don't know.
So why did they let the computers think that they could go to 1900 after 1999? I don't know.
I don't know.
If I put a wrong number in an Excel sheet on a date type column, it just assumes I mean 1800s anyway. So
yeah, that's true.
That's fair.
Although you're not using Microsoft Excel to plan your nuclear strategy.
You know what? I would not be surprised if they
Excel
did.
is a tremendously powerful piece of
Yes,
software.
it is.
So maybe it probably could.
If you know how to use it.
I work at a wastewater treatment plant and I use it every single day. Granted, different amount of stakes, but still, my point stands.
Sure.
Well, both are things we don't want exploding all over us.
Oh, that
is so true.
That brings back some dark memories.
Oh, no.
Well, question 2 this week. Speaking of things exploding, I suppose. Would a person with super durability... Quiet, Jim. Would a person with super durability still need pain receptors, or would they be functionally numb to the world? I like everything about this question. And didn't know where to go with it, but
I wanted to do several different ways with it. So because there's a point for pain receptors, obviously, but then there's also what's his what's the limits of his superpower, I guess.
Yeah, I have that. So I mean, I mostly kind of looked at a few different examples from fiction, so I'll answer Jonathan's point from my perspective briefly, because I'm interested to hear what you think.
Okay.
But it really does depend on two things in my mind. If you are actually like, you cannot be broken, you cannot be cut, you cannot be damaged, I would say you wouldn't have a physical need for pain, but pain is different from like just the ability to feel.
Right.
The other thing is you're just super durable, but you're not indestructible. The way that our pain receptors work, they're kind of like a warning system. So if you are actually damaged is when they go off to tell you something is wrong. So it's possible that you could still have pain receptors. The example I have for that is like in certain versions of Superman. If Superman is not imagined to be completely indestructible, Kryptonians are physiologically basically human. So if they're under a red sun, they don't have superpowers. They have pain receptors. It's just they don't go off if there's a yellow sun, because Superman has superpowers, right? And then the other aspect to answer that is, are you born this way, or do you develop some kind of super ability later in life? So those are my immediate responses to Jonathan's point.
Was it a radioactive super durable spider?
Right.
That kind of answers where I was going with it, because pain receptors are there for alarming purposes. They're supposed to show you like, hey, don't do this. Stove is hot. Don't touch. You'll hurt yourself. So it's kind of like that cautionary tale. Don't do this or else you'll cause irreparable damage to yourself. But if that irreparable damage is taken away, doesn't matter if you have the pain receptors, is important. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah.
They're not serving a purpose to someone who can't get hurt by whatever the pain is trying to warn them of.
Yeah.
That being said, it also crossed my mind while Derek was talking that, well, what if he has like internal issues? Is he super durable to external stimulus? What if he gets like a back spasm or a heart attack, or would that pain still happen? Or is he super durable even to those? To go really dark with it, what about cancer? How would he be able to treat that or go about that? Would it even bother him? Is he super durable to not have cancer? I didn't know what limits there were on it.
Yeah, because we didn't say immortal.
Right.
We just said durable.
Like Derek was saying, if he's truly immortal, then no, he's not going to have any of those pain receptors to like the back problems or the heart attacks or strokes or cancer or any of that, because that's immortality. There's no reason for those pain receptors.
But I think it's interesting because in what I was reading, it seems like a big part of pain signals is that tissue has to be damaged in some way. So if this person was like super, super strong and, you know, you swing a sword at them and the sword just like breaks over their arm and it doesn't cut or leave a bruise or anything like that, then I would think, oh, you know, you probably wouldn't have the pain. You might feel the pressure of the impact. You might feel the touch, the sense of touch of that. But you probably wouldn't feel the pain. However, since you're talking about sort of internal diseases and things like that, I would think that if they had an ulcer, for instance, that would be tissue damage. And so that would still set off their pain receptors. And I also sort of would think that super strength and sort of invulnerability would be a separate power than prevention of disease, I guess, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
completely to me, because that was always my complaint with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Piccolo, Piccolo, I wish for eternal youth. Well, you're still going to die because you didn't wish for immortality. So,
right.
Well, and actually, speaking of Dragon Ball Z, in the one continuity, Goku dies from heart disease.
Oh, right, exactly.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he can tank getting a planet thrown at him, but his heart is still a heart.
It was all the bacon.
To Jim's point, there's a thing in a lot of like hack and slash type video games that kind of really bothers me, and it's why I can't like get into some of them, where the hit detection doesn't register like you're actually hitting the opponent. And this is done a lot when like there's a boss or something that's like really big and it's just walking toward you really slowly, and you can sit there and hack away at it and it just doesn't move at all. I get that it's supposed to be indestructible, but like I'm still physically touching this thing. So like I like the idea of, to go back to Superman, because that's going to be my go-to reference to superheroes most of the time. Even if Superman cannot be hurt, if somebody with super strength punches him, I don't think he's just going to necessarily, unless he's physically trying to, he's not just going to stand there and let the fist collide with him and not move at all, because there's still Newton's forces at play, right? So like you can throw him into a wall, or you can get a little bit of pushback on like his skin if you press your fist against it. That doesn't mean you're damaging it.
Yeah. I think that's actually a really good point, because even if, and this is a really good way of sort of delineating between people that were born with this type of power and people who obtain it later on. Because if I were to suddenly become invulnerable to attacks like that, I would still flinch a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't know how it is with Superman. I think that he sort of had to learn about his powers before he was like, oh, I'm invulnerable to this. Like he wasn't a 3-year-old saying, oh, I could just, fall down the stairs and I'll be great.
Well, it's interesting. I guess I've not seen that aspect explored a lot, because every time they do Superman as a kid, like they'll always do the thing where, oh, his dad's working on the bottom of the tractor or something, and something goes wrong and it falls down. All of a sudden, baby Clark Kent is holding the tractor up above his head with one hand. So I think you have a little bit of that, like he doesn't realize it's abnormal.
Right.
Which I think is a fun way to kind of look at that.
Yeah.
I have a pitch, and this is going all the way back to when Jonathan said the thing about the radioactive indestructible spider. We are building Ironclad Beetle Man. There's an insect called the diabolical ironclad beetle.
Okay.
I love that it's called that.
It is
I just love
fantastic.
the name of it. This is a beetle that can be run over by a car and be fine.
Huh.
It's great. It looks like it's made of charcoal.
Nice.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful, ugly little thing. And it's reportedly indestructible, which is great. So that's the character we're building is that. It's the Spider-Man version of that.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So sticking on the idea that if this is not abnormal to you, because Jim, I think you're absolutely right. You'd still flinch. You'd still have the learned behavior. A lot of people that I was asking about this to try to get other perspectives on it is like, well, if you couldn't feel pain, you'd probably be like reckless. And I'm like, well, if you couldn't feel pain, you might be reckless. And I have more to say about that in a little bit. But if you're actually indestructible, I don't know if we can count that as reckless. I think you can walk into a fire and be fine. I'm not going to say don't walk into the fire. Like, I don't know, go save people.
Yeah, exactly. Become a superhero.
Become a superhero.
It's just a normal stroll.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what I was kind of really interested in, there's not really a good way to measure this. And again, I have another example from fiction to look at this as well. But I'm interested in like the psychological effect of, hypothetically, somebody is born without the ability to feel pain, but also not the ability to be damaged. Is this person going to sympathize with other people feeling pain? Are they going to understand that, like, yeah, you can't walk into a fire because it'll hurt you, and like, oh, you're crying because you stubbed your toe. Like, are you going to care? Like, I don't know.
I think if you're born without the ability to feel pain, that would be one thing. But if you lose the ability to feel pain, that would be a totally different thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I was thinking, as you were talking about this, there is a James Bond villain in The World Is Not Enough.
Have it on my list.
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, he lost his ability to feel pain due to an accident. And even though he can't feel pain, he's not indestructible.
Is this Elektra King?
No, it's her heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you this before you continue. The World Is Not Enough 1999 James Bond film literally did no research because Jim.
Fair enough. You know what? But yeah, so there's this scene where I can't remember where they are. I feel like it was somewhere in Turkey or somewhere in that sort of geographic area where the ground was very hot and the rocks were all very, very hot because there was some kind of underground fire. And basically this guy picks up this steaming rock and just presses it into this guy's hand that he was very unhappy with as like a punishment.
Okay.
And it burns the guy and he's very in pain, as you can tell. But the guy who can't feel pain just kind of throws the rock on the ground. Now, later on, his hand is all wrapped up in a bandage. So clearly he did some damage to himself.
Sure.
But I think the concept is a very interesting one because we rely on pain to tell us when things are going wrong.
Yeah.
If you can't feel pain, you're going to touch a hot stove or you're going to break your foot and not know it when you stub your toe on the corner of a table or something like that. And it's weird to think about a scenario where you wouldn't feel that.
I think what's really interesting is the idea of being able to feel other things but not pain. So like I can feel pressure because that's how you interact with the world. Like that's your tactile senses.
Yeah.
But at some point pressure evolves into pain. And it's weird in my mind to be able to like separate those two, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it would be very similar in a lot of ways to having just full body Novocaine.
Yeah.
Because you can feel some aspects of it, like specifically the pressure, but you can't really feel the touching so much. And you definitely can't feel the pain. So it would be like a weird version of Novocaine where you can still feel all the other touch-related stuff and not the pain.
So I have 2 examples of
2 doses of Novocaine.
I have 2 doses of Novocaine for the cavity I have to have filled. But that's not relevant right now. I have 2 examples from fiction of characters that are unable to feel pain. They're vastly different. They're on a varying scale of realistic, but I pulled out the good parts and the bad parts of both of them, I think. So because we're on this idea of not being able to feel pain, but being able to feel other things, or rather being just totally numb, I want to look at House MD, season 3, an episode titled Insensitive.
Well, he can't feel emotional pain.
He can't feel emotional pain. He feels a lot of pain all of the time because of muscle death. But so in this episode, a teenage girl named Hannah is in a car wreck, and she's brought in, and she seems weirdly unfazed, even though she has a broken sternum. House quickly realizes that she has CIP, which is congenital insensitivity to pain. Which is a real thing. It is a rare genetic condition where a person physically can't feel pain. She explains that she has never felt pain in her entire life. So she once put her hand on a hot stove and didn't notice until she smelled burning skin.
Ugh.
Right?
That's a fear of mine.
Yeah,
right?
Fair.
In the episode, she develops a fever and almost dies from appendicitis because she isn't able to feel the pain of her appendix. And this episode goes into like a philosophical interpretation, because if you don't know House, he has muscle death in his leg, and he lives on Vicodin, always in constant pain. And he sees his pain as a weakness, but it kind of explores this idea that pain is supposed to be warning you about danger, and if you don't have it, you're not necessarily safe. It's actually bad for you. And he says his pain defines who he is, and it grounds him, and it's how he has empathy. These are all the philosophical interpretations, which are, up for debate. But in this episode, aside from the fact that it's oversimplified for the sake of presentability to an audience, they don't really get anything super wrong about the medical stuff. So I've highlighted the few things that they did get wrong. Hannah seems to feel touch and temperature normally. She just can't feel pain, but in real life, CIP can also blunt other senses or other sensations, such as temperature is often prepared. And so like hypothermia or overheating are risks. And also they make a big deal about her being in the car wreck and her having appendicitis. But in real life, CIP is dangerous when you have small injuries that you don't notice and then they start to stack up. A cut, for example, can become infected, or a twisted ankle that you keep walking on will get worse and worse. So these are like not that being in a car wreck isn't a real danger, but these are the actual reasons. Like they're less dramatic, but they are serious issues for somebody who has this condition.
That's where my real fear is with not being able to feel pain, is that you cut something and it just gets worse, and the healing's just going to be so miserable to try and get everything back to, quote, normal.
Every single time I stub my toe, because I've known people who have broken their toes and didn't notice for weeks. And these aren't people who can't feel pain. They're just like, you didn't notice and it heals wrong, and then you have serious problems. So like literally every time I stub my toe, I'm like, I hope it's not broken, and I just don't notice.
This is it. This is the one.
This is the one. Yeah. So I saved this one for the last bit of my notes. Actually, I saved the James Bond thing, but Jim already tackled it. So I want to talk about the idea of not being able to feel pain as a superpower, as a lot of people, Dr. House included, like would love to not be able to feel pain, but you also have to be indestructible for that to really be a benefit. So
Yeah.
In Sam Raimi's 1990 masterpiece and Liam Neeson's greatest role, Darkman.
Oh boy.
Um,
I've never heard of this movie.
you would hate it, Jim.
I don't know. I love both those people, and I don't know how I haven't heard of it.
What,
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm surprised Jonathan hasn't seen Darkman.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell is in it at the very
Oh,
end.
jeez.
Yeah, so synopsis, I thought this was more well known. Okay, let me give you, off the top of my head, a brief synopsis of the movie. A scientist is studying how to make a fake prosthetic skin that can replace burn scars. And this is, they wouldn't let Sam Raimi do a superhero movie in 1990, so he wrote his own. That's the backstory to this. So there are a lot of problems with the premise of this character. This is off the top of my head, so listeners, you'll have to forgive me when I don't get things right. He's engaged to this woman. He's living his science life. He's doing science. And for whatever reason, there are mobsters that break into his lab and they want to steal some device or some technology, and he happens to be there when they break in. And so the whole place goes up in flames. His face is dunked in a vat of acid because, science labs have those just everywhere.
Yeah, always.
And the building explodes. And Dr. Peyton Westlake is Liam Neeson's character, is Darkman, is flung out into the bay or the river or whatever body of water is nearby. His entire body is charred and mutilated. He is taken to the hospital, the emergency room, where, and I'll save this because this is where I'm actually getting to the notes, but later on, when he's trying to get revenge on all of the criminals, he goes to this fake skin lab that he's making, and he decides to manufacture. I should have said spoiler warning here. Maybe I don't want to do this. I don't know. He decides to manufacture masks that look like the other criminals, and he learns to mimic their voices perfectly. That's just in there. There's no explanation for how. He just does it. And so he basically disguises himself as mobsters to infiltrate and take out all of the mobsters. And so that's the spoiler-free synopsis of the movie. The reason he's called Darkman is that this fake skin can only last up to an hour, I think, in light. But if it's in the dark, it doesn't break down. So he has like a time limit every time he infiltrates and poses as someone. It's very Dick Tracy kind of era, but with the Sam Raimi gore. It's a fun watch. Yeah. I genuinely do like it. It's not a good movie, but but the important reason that I bring him up here, and that doesn't spoil like the ending, but one of his superpowers, quote unquote superpowers, is that he has heightened strength and stamina because the doctors, and hold your cringing, the doctors, to prevent him from feeling constant agony from his body being burnt beyond recognition, they decide to sever the nerves from his spine to his pain receptors so he can't feel anything, which, according to the movie logic, the body overcompensates, flooding his system with adrenaline, which give him superhuman strength and stamina, but also make him emotionally unstable and prone to violent rages.
Okay.
It's a very campy movie. Here's the good points and the bad points. There is actually, in real medicine, certain procedures called chordotomy or rhizotomy, where they cut or destroy nerves to stop chronic pain for people who, there is no other option. However, this also makes the patient unable to feel anything from those specific parts of their body. So like, if your arm is like, if burns is a good example, if you're going to be in constant pain for the rest of your life, they may just make your arm numb is kind of the idea.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Here's the downside. Here's the problem. There are many problems. Here's the problem with this specific aspect of the film. The idea that the body floods his system with adrenaline. If you can't feel pain, you're actually less likely to have adrenaline, because adrenaline is triggered by the fight or flight response if you
Right.
are in danger. So if anything, loss of pain would make you calmer.
There was something in there that you had said with that I just was itching me. It was like, why would it be adrenaline? Thank you. I
Just
appreciate
go
that.
Go watch the movie,
Mhm.
Jonathan. Just go watch. It's fun. It's a fun
Yeah.
movie. It's just very
Yeah.
scientifically
yeah.
inaccurate.
I would expect nothing
Yeah,
less.
exactly. I love Sam Raimi's stuff, but I'm not expecting
Yeah.
Yeah.
A class
I'm
material.
not here for a scientific treatise from Sam
Yeah,
Raimi.
exactly.
He wanted it to be a pulp superhero, and that's what it is for sure.
Apparently,
Right,
it was
right.
supposed to be the Shadows, who he wanted to make a movie of.
Yeah, and I don't want him to do the Shadow. I
We
actually
got
don't.
the Dark Man. We don't need the Shadow.
It's true.
Yeah.
I actually like the.
We already we're
Oh,
there
I-
already.
I like both the Shadow and Dark Man for very different reasons.
I haven't seen
Oh, I'm
anything
sure,
of the
yeah.
Shadow. I was trying to look it up a little bit, and it doesn't seem familiar at all.
Yeah, so the whole point of bringing those up is I just wanted to say this concept has been explored quite a bit because it's a fascinating concept, and it's really easy to think of it as having a superpower of just not feeling pain.
Mhm.
And that presents so many more problems.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One of the last things I wanted to mention, though, actually, is the idea that as they get sort of more mature in their powers, that they might be able to tune pain out a lot more readily.
Okay.
And the thing that made me think of this is children, because when you're a child and you fall over, you just start crying.
Yeah.
And like you cry for like a good 3 to 4 minutes, and it by the time it stops hurting, you're still crying. But as an adult, you fall over and you're like, wow, that was embarrassing, and you get up and go on your way. I don't think it hurts less. I think that you've just sort of become attuned to that pain. You've had enough injury in your life that you're like, okay, I know that even though my knee kind of stings, it's
Mhm.
not serious, and I can just get up and go, and it'll stop hurting in like 2 minutes.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah. 2 minutes if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, once you hit 40, then it starts wrapping back around, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I hurt my knee, and it's gonna hurt for the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly. I slept weird. It's going to hurt for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the idea that it doesn't hurt less, like specifically that the quote, it doesn't hurt less, because I wonder if that's true. Like, do you not build up a resistance? Because you're not developing calluses specifically.
Right.
That is really fascinating that like it's almost like a perspective thing that
Yeah.
this is going to go away in a minute or two, and this is the
Yeah.
worst it's going to hurt is right this second, so you don't
Yeah.
need to
Mhm.
be as concerned about it.
Yeah. But when you're 4, for instance, you don't really know. Like you know that it's going to stop hurting eventually, but time is different when you're a child,
Yeah.
and it can make it seem like it's lasting a long time. And also, you haven't had as many bumps and scrapes, and so each one of them is like a sort of a new experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm remembering because I took a lot of hits when I was a kid. I fell a lot. I liked to climb things, and I also did not enjoy pain at all. But I'm trying to remember. I remember being stung by a bee on my arm and running to my mom like screaming. And I've seen people who like will get stung by bees as adults, and they're like, "Oh, that's annoying. Go away." And what's weird to me is I have not been stung by a bee in my adult life. So like in my head, I'm like, I remember that hurting a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I'll give it to you on this one. Here's a point for the pain doesn't change, your perspective does. I've had a problem with ground wasps at my house.
Ooh.
The past 2 summers, they've just been miserable. I'm mowing grass and I just get bit by them, and it hurts so much. And it lasts for way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a point that it does hurt a lot. And you just have the perspective now that this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
You don't burst into tears, right?
And you get tough, right? Yeah.
It's close, but no, I don't.
I generally don't like pain.
Yeah.
You know, if you really push me on it, I'm going to tell you I'm not a fan.
Yeah, if I could just not have pain.
You really twist your arm.
If you really twist my arm, I will ask you to stop.
But in researching and discussing pain, I'm glad I feel it.
Sure.
If I need to.
It's essential.
Yeah.
Yep. Because we are not indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
Because life is pain. Anyone that says otherwise is trying to sell you something.
All right, listeners, let us know this week, why doesn't wood feel pain when you burn it? It's a very simple answer to that one. If you have any thoughts on that or anything else, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com, or you can comment on our blog at vaguelyscientific.com, or you can like us on Facebook, or you can follow us on Blue Sky, or you can comment on the YouTube feed. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listener. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other cool places that podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
You can assure your friends that they will not feel pain as a direct result of listening to this podcast.
Unless they turn the volume up way too loud, which is on them, really.
That's on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Use your discretion advised.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. All kinds of amazing designs that you can find on there. There's still an Apocalypse of the Week design on there, so if that really revs your nostalgia, you can go find it today.
Yeah, and thank you to Jonathan for being our guest.
Yeah, always fun to be here.
Hooray! For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Jonathan.
And that's our time.
Toodaloo, everybody.
Bye. It would be great if I said it right the first time, but oh well.
Yeah,
It'll be right in the
cut
first time in the final cut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll edit that part, but we won't edit this part.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Hey, everybody. Jonathan got that wrong before.
They've been listening to me as many episodes as I've been on. They probably know I stumble and stutter a lot.
No worries.
That's fair.
I do too. It's fine.
It gives it that authentic experience as I as I stutter through it.
This is a very conversational podcast. We're loosey-goosey here.
I remember, we can cut all of this, but I remember it was an episode that Addison was on, so it was a very long time ago, but it's stuck in my head. I tried to say the word statistically significant and stumbled over it a bunch of times, and then Jim said it, and I was like, right, and then I said it, and Jim cut all of that out in the episode, and granted, this is exactly what I wanted Jim to do, and you did it. At the end of the episode, he put that whole chunk in there. I was like, yes.
That's amazing. I don't even remember doing that. I'm glad I did, though.
That is
perfect.
It's a very vivid memory. I remember weird things. I don't know.
That's a good stinger.
Yeah. It was. And I listened to the episode and I was like, okay, you cut that part out. And immediately I was like, oh, you better put it in at the end. The whole episode, I'm waiting for it. And I was like, yes.